Discomfort is not a wall, it is a doorway. Discomfort is not a dead end, it is an alive invitation. All that you are calling in and all that we are calling in through you will inevitably ask you to sit with discomfort and to say yes, even though I don't want to experience this discomfort. I don't like how it affects my body, my nervous system. I don't enjoy this feeling, even though it feels deeply, just counterintuitive to stay in that feeling and to walk through and towards the fire rather than avoid it or around it. That is, my love, one of the ways to truly embody the courage that you are here to be and to become through your dream and through what you are calling in. So I really want to talk to you about this theme because I feel that this is what blocks so many of us from fully embodying what we know we feel called to embody in this lifetime. I also, of course, want to say that the primary blocker to our magic and magnificence are systems of oppression, are cultural conditioning, social programming, very big systems of supremacy, of colonialism and coloniality, of capitalism, and the way our lives are structured around time and the lack of freedom and aliveness that we get to embody in our lives very often because of these systems. So I always want to name that first. And then sometimes you feel in your life you do have more capacity to step into your music or your writing or your gifts, and yet you are resisting, right? You are afraid, or you feel blocked, or you feel stuck. There are actions you know you could take. You have, let's say, 30 minutes or an hour or a day that you could carve out. So the problem is not necessarily that you cannot take action in the sense of you are physically blocked from doing so, but there are these internal energetic blocks that feel like you're afraid and you don't know how to move through the fear, or you feel stuck, or you feel uncomfortable, you feel like you're trapped in a cycle where you keep saying you're going to do something, maybe you start it, you get to a certain point, and then you back away from the project or from the ask, the calling. So that's what we're really talking about today. And it's really challenging to hold the complexity of these topics and to say, like, primarily, this is a systemic issue and a collective imagination, dominant collective imagination issue. And then also at the same time, as visionaries, I believe we are all the womb of who we are all becoming. So if a world exists without those systems, it is because the artist and the creator within us birthed it into being. It didn't just drop from the sky. It didn't drop from the birds or from the flowers. In fact, it also did. But we as people, as artists, as makers, as visionaries, as builders, as dreamers, as feelers, as healers, we must have allowed the visionary within us to guide us home, to lead us to where we were always meant to go, to co-create heaven on earth. So I believe that there is necessarily an internal conversation that needs to be had with the parts of us that are keeping us stuck and keeping us playing a role that feels too small for us, and the part of us that feels ready to be free and to express freely and take up more space and make mistakes and make a mess and be imperfect. But there is this internal block that is by design, that we have ingested, we have imbibed and imbued from the systems that we live and breathe and that live and breathe us. So I do want to hold that tension, and also acknowledge we do the best that we can to reach for the language that we feel we can offer. And this is what I feel I can offer, knowing it is inherently imperfect. There are inherently things that I will not say, forget to say, not even have the wisdom to say or the courage to say. But I hope that this can serve you. Okay? Okay. So often in the creative process, in the process of bringing what we are calling in into life, whether that's a dream book that you've been dreaming of writing or a dream visibility you've been calling in. Maybe you dream of having your thoughts and ideas living and breathing in the collective consciousness, shared between friends, influencing how people experience life in a beautiful way, bringing them home to love, to magic, to spirituality, to astrology, to whatever your gifts are. But then there's that fear. There could be the fear of being seen, something I talk about so often, which is a deep existential fear of being judged, which is an existential fear of being socially unended, unalived, because so much of our safety is tied up on social approval, or at least it historically and ancestrally has been, that we need to be accepted by the tribe in order to survive. So we have this deep fundamental link in our consciousness that it's not safe to be judged. It's not safe to be seen in a critical or negative light. Then we also have a digital landscape that can feel really terrifying at times to navigate. We see people be canceled. We see people be criticized. We see people be torn down. And it collaborates with that part of our subconscious who's like, you see, that's what's going to happen to you. And this happens to me all the time, where I'm like, you're scrolling or you're seeing what's happening and how people are being criticized. And part of you is internalizing that as inevitable to happen to you. And so there's different forms of discomfort that we face. There's the fear of insecurity, of instability, the fear of going all in on something and then losing everything, financial instability and insecurity, and fears around failing, fears around losing everything, fears around criticism, like we said, fears around not being good at something, being a beginner, and how we've been conditioned to believe that that is unsafe. It's only safe to be excellent. It's only safe to be the embodiment of excellence in your field or in your craft, which sets us up for quote unquote failure, because you can only become excellent at anything by first surrendering to the unavoidable, beautiful, stunning, magical, uncomfortable, devastating, delicious journey of being a beginner. And so we're being invited, really, when we face discomfort, to sit with this paradox that some of the things that we believe will bring us the most joy, the most fulfillment, the most service and alignment, that sense of, I always think of it as on my deathbed, wanting to look back and be really proud and at ease with what I've created in this life. Like I've given, to the world, and I've given to myself, and I've given to my community and my family and my friends. I've been a source of generosity, but not an imposed generosity, which is what creates resentment and what creates misalignment, fatigue, energy drain, the feeling that you're giving and giving and giving, but you're not doing your sacred giving. So in a sense, you're depleting yourself on efforts, activities, messages, expectations that are not truly your deepest giving in this lifetime. It's like if a peach tries to give flight to the world, it's not meant to give flying to the world. Birds give flying. Peaches give the juiciness of peaches, and they give a moment of pleasure, and they give a moment of sustenance and nourishment, and they give the deliciousness of the beautiful orangey redness that a peach has. But a peach is not here to give the wings of a bird. A peach is here to give what peaches give. And so when we are out of alignment with our sacred giving, that creates a feeling of frustration, of misalignment, of negativity, of resentment towards the people who we feel we cannot say no to because of family expectations, cultural expectations, capitalism. That's actually a perfect example of that, of being made to give your time in ways that are not your sacred giving, but having to in order to make ends meet, in order to pay the bills, in order to pay rent, and such forth things. So when it comes to giving our sacred giving, when it comes to you giving your sacred giving, one of the paradoxes in that journey, as I've said, is that you'll be asked to sit with discomfort. And most people, in the face of that discomfort, will avoid it. And this is also now being conditioned into us by culture, by technology, because we have all these technologies that allow us to escape feeling uncomfortable, to escape boredom. Why would I be bored? Why would I sit and do nothing? Why would I sit in this line or this queue or this uncomfortable place, this elevator, and talk to people, or just sit in the discomfort of being in a tight space with strangers, when I could scroll my phone, when I could open up a bunch of apps, when I could respond to texts, when I could also do important things, on my phone that I need to do. So we're being conditioned to have so many escape routes away from discomfort. And this is affecting how we show up for our dreams, because it's so much easier to go and read someone else's Substack than sit with a draft of your own, and how imperfect it feels or not good enough it feels, and how uncomfortable the writing feels at certain stages of it. Like, why would you stay in that discomfort when you could flee from it? And this is a question that, as big dreamers, as visionaries who hope to actually live our visions, we need to be so aware of. Where in your life, my love, are you avoiding discomfort in the service of your dreams? What specific forms of discomfort are you avoiding? Are you avoiding the discomfort of editing your work? Are you avoiding the discomfort of posting the work? So maybe you've developed the capacity to create the TikTok video, but where the discomfort comes in is the actual accepting of it, accepting that, yes, you could have said more, you could have done more, it could have been this, it could have been that. There are infinite could have beens, but that what is more than generous, is more than enough, and deserves at least to be shared. And that possibility of how this could help someone is worth sharing it for. So where in the process of your creations are you avoiding discomfort? Because the very same places that we avoid discomfort are also the places where we avoid the dream. So the law of polarity, which I talk about very often over here in the Soul Salon, is that everything, every human experience, actually every cosmic experience involves the both and, involves the night and the day, the darkness and the light. And they're not just involved passively, they co-create each other, they enable each other. We cannot have life and the brightness of day without the rest and the reprieve of night. If the sun just shone all the time, all the plants would just die. They need the reprieve of the nighttime, the nourishment of the nighttime, similar to us. We rest at night, we have this reprieve from energy and so much activity that allows us to slip into the dream world and to dream and explore and rest and recover. And our dreams are this fertile soil for then what gets revealed in the light. But without the darkness to be the womb of the dream, there could be no seed for that dream that then got planted and then grew and blossomed. You hear what I'm saying? So they enable each other, they are mutually co-creating each other at all times. So conflict enables togetherness and intimacy and feeling close to someone. When you have really loving conflict with someone, you walk away from it feeling like, wow, I just learned so much about them. I learned so much about myself. I feel closer to them than ever if the conflict is held with love and with consciousness and awareness and compassion rather than contempt. So we have this world where some of us want the vision without the discomfort that the vision will bring. So many people may want to quit their full-time job and work for themselves. But then when it comes to the pressure to tell people about what you do, so maybe that's you are writing an ebook that you're self-publishing. Let's say your dream is to write a book and you want to self-publish this book because you don't believe in the publishing industry. You love the fact that self-publishing is growing and you want that creative freedom and control. Okay, great. So you write the book. Of course, in the writing of the book, so much discomfort comes up. You feel uncomfortable. You feel it will never be good enough. It feels such a daunting project, but you sit with that discomfort. You sit with it. You finish the book. Then it comes time to tell people about the book and invite them to buy the book. Ooh, now the blocks, the stories, the fears are coming up. It's embarrassing. It's annoying to sell. I don't want to be cringe. I don't want to be like a cringy salesperson. It's embarrassing to ask people for money. Who am I to get to? Why should people spend money on me? So many people are suffering in the world. Why should they spend money on my book? And all these stories, right? And there you face this discomfort that then leads many people to say, well, I guess maybe I'll go try write a Substack because that's going to be easier to monetize and it's already plugged into the system, to the platform and how it works. And people are so used to paying for Substack. So maybe that's going to be the thing. And you cycle through these dreams because you avoid certain forms of discomfort. Now, first, let's celebrate the fact that there are many forms of discomfort you are facing. If you're watching this video, there's healing work or there is journaling or there is sitting with triggers and not reacting the way you used to. There is showing up for your creative work. You're doing amazing. You're doing incredible. There's so many ways you've become the person you were always longing for, the person, the elder you always dreamed of having in your corner, in your heart, supporting you, pouring love and light into you. Of course, having days where that's not the case, but really showing up for yourself. So let's take a moment to celebrate. What are you feeling so proud of yourself for? In what ways have you become the dream person that you were always calling in? Maybe the dream parent to your inner child, the dream friend to your inner child. How have you embodied what once felt so out of reach? Okay, so now we also know, my love, that if you avoid the discomfort of sharing this ebook, the dream of living abundantly through the vessel of this ebook will never be realized. And so in avoiding the discomfort, you are also avoiding the dream. Just like in avoiding the difficult conversation, we also avoid having the dream relationship, because every dream relationship will need to pass through the invitation, the vessel, the womb of uncomfortable, intimate conversations about family and childhood and money and boundaries and heartbreak and grief. And, oh, that really hurt my feelings when you said that. And it made me feel like you don't care about me, or you, and it made me feel like this, and it made me feel like that. Like sitting in those uncomfortable conversations is what creates the dream relationship, is what builds the safety brick by brick for your inner child to feel at ease and at comfort and secure in that relationship. But if you don't have the conversation, you avoid laying each of those bricks, and there's nothing holding you, your inner child, your future self within the container of that relationship. So similarly, when you are facing discomfort in sharing about this ebook, telling people, inviting people, you are then avoiding the dream. Then you are avoiding the dream of this ebook reaching all the people it's meant for. How will they ever be nourished by your consciousness and your words if you never tell them about it? Okay. So in these moments, the invitation is to not see this as a detour, like, oh, I was feeling really good and then something wrong happened, but actually see this as the point. Part of why you called this dream in, and part of why it called you in, perhaps, is for you to sit with this very discomfort. Because when you're feeling uncomfortable, there's some form of shame. There's some form of conditional love that's coming through. What if everyone judges me for being too salesy? What if people think I'm annoying and I don't accept myself? So you're being invited to accept yourself more than what anyone could say about you, more than the perception that you are being salesy, more than people's judgment. Because I think often in the face of judgment, people say, oh no one's judging you. No one cares about you. They only care about themselves. I think this is a form of avoidance because we've all judged people. If you're watching this, I'd also invite you, if you fear judgment, part of the conversation that I feel doesn't get held is, who have you judged? Because your inner judge knows who you have outwardly judged, whether it's through your words, through gossiping with friends, or internally judged. You're scrolling and you're like, oh, I would never have said it that way. Oh my word, how can she be doing this? How can they be charging that? How can they be saying this in this email? Unsubscribe, discard them, which is fine, it's your right. But then when it's your turn to try and do something, that inner judge is like, oh, remember how we judged them? That's how we're going to judge ourselves. So I think part of this cultural conversation around the fear of being seen trying also needs to reconcile that we are also not always safe spaces for other people to try things. We can be very judgmental of people, very critical of people, only believing people who have amazing voices should be singing on TikTok or Instagram, only believing that if someone is this, they don't also get to be that. And then when we try and integrate many parts of ourselves, we're like, what if people don't accept that I'm a multi-passionate? Who have you not accepted is a multi-passionate? And this is just with no judgment. I always notice that something I fear being judged for, I have judged someone for. And that is the invitation. Maybe write a letter to this person saying, you know what? I really judged you for da-da-da. And now I understand, because judgment is also a deeper understanding that has not yet taken place. So you're stuck in a lower expression of judgment versus alchemizing that into a deeper understanding of like why people may do what they do. And so I think we manifested the discomfort just as much as we manifested the dream, because there's a healed self who can only be revealed through us facing that discomfort. And there's like a courageous warrior within each of us, or we wouldn't be here. You know, there's like a part of us that is really powerful and bigger than any challenge. And I think we're being invited to expand into the part of us that can face the discomfort of being seen, the discomfort of being judged. We're making ourselves smaller than that. Like, oh, discomfort, look at you. You're so much bigger than me and grander than me. You're so all-knowing, and look how big and scary and terrifying you are, and I'll never be able to transcend you. Versus there is a self that says, I see you, discomfort. I can face you. I've got this. I am resilient. It's not that I am a resilient person. Literally, by the very fact that I'm breathing, I am a manifestation of resilience itself. I am resilience. And so I can hold, I can face, I can experience what you are asking me to experience. I don't need to shrink myself in the face of you. I don't need to pretend you're so much bigger than me. I don't need to put you on a pedestal. I remove all pedestals. They do not serve me. I can face this. I can face the fear of making this video. Of course I can. Of course I can. I can face the nerves before going on stage. Of course I can. Everything I see in the people I admire who do this, humans do this all the time. The Olympian is afraid before they go out. The singer is afraid before they go out. The parent may be afraid before they apologize to the child. The child may be afraid before they apologize to the parent, before they confess that they did something, quote unquote, wrong. The lover can be afraid to confess their love, but they do it anyways, because that is a human capacity to rise in the face of fear rather than shrink. So I'm going to invite you to reflect, where in my life have I already done this? Where in my life have I already expanded in the face of discomfort rather than contracted myself? Where have I shown up with courage? And how can I lean on that wisdom that lives within me to face this next form of discomfort? And how can I see that the universe loves me so much that it gave me this discomfort to face because of who I get to become on the other side of it? So I would invite you to journal on, who do I get to become by saying yes to this discomfort? So if you are a singer and you're very afraid of performing in a room full of people, which is terrifying, or could be for some people, I would find it terrifying. But by choosing that discomfort and saying yes, you become the version of you who's that much closer to being the one who can sit in an arena and stand in an arena and sing in front of thousands of people. By saying yes to that room full of people, by saying yes to the discomfort of eye contact and where to look, by saying yes to that, you are saying yes to becoming the version of you who is bigger than that room and therefore ready for the next room and ready for the next room and ready for the next room. Every time I say yes to making these videos, holding my fear, holding my fears of not being good enough, of not saying the right things, of sounding this or being perceived as da-da-da-da, I'm expanding, babes, so much so that I'm like, oh, I'm ready. I've always been ready. We've always been ready, by the way. Nothing is above me. Say that. Nothing is above you. Nothing's on a pedestal. We put our dreams like they're so far away from us. I have this story where I'm like, oh, one day I'll be able. One day is today. Walk through that door. I'm ready. I'm ready because I faced discomfort so many times that I know I have the capacity to face it again. And yes, it will be a different flavor, a different texture, a different dimension of discomfort, but I've built an intimacy with that feeling so often. I've shown up so many times afraid, whether it's from these videos, whether it's on Zoom, whether it's wherever it may be, Zoom calls, containers that I've held, free trainings that I've held. I'm like, I've been facing discomfort. Improv is a great way to practice this. I love improv. That's an amazing way to face discomfort. So much fun, so delightful, which we haven't spoken about delight, which we also get to experience through our dreams, but that's more publicized. So that's why we're not talking about it right now. But it builds a muscle of trust within you because you've seen yourself face it again and again. And the universe wants you to build that muscle so that when you are in that stadium, babes, when you are performing at that festival, you feel like you faced discomfort so many times that you become the version of you who can hold it and who can even have fun with it, who can play with it, who is this master alchemist who's vibing at the same time as she's a little bit, or they're a little bit, or he's a little bit terrified, who knows that they don't need to shrink in the face of feeling nervous or anxious or afraid. So, what is one aligned action that you can go take, my love, that does make you uncomfortable? And how can we accept that this is as much a part of life as comfort? Discomfort is as much a part of the human experience as comfort. And when we are too much on one side or the other, we will face an unbalance. We will face another form of discomfort, the discomfort of living a life that's too small for us. Because every time you say, I don't want to be uncomfortable, you say, I don't want my life to change. I don't want my life to change. If the waiter comes and says, hi, what will you be having? You know what I'll not be having? Discomfort. What they're hearing, the universe waiter or waitress is hearing, oh, they don't want a life that feels expanded and magnificent, that feels expanded and dreamy. And they don't want to experience the pride of saying, I did it. Even though I was afraid, even though I felt resistance, I did it. They don't want that. Okay, cool. So we'll give them more of the same. What does that create? It creates anxiety. It creates discomfort. That's the irony. Discomfort will create further discomfort, or discomfort can create a form of comfort. Like every comfort we want, whether that's a dream you want, a level of financial freedom you want, a level of creative abundance you want, lies on the other side of discomfort. So by choosing discomfort, you're actually choosing comfort. By choosing comfort, you're choosing discomfort. You hear what I'm saying? You hear what I'm saying? So if you think about it, discomfort, if we think of the law of cause and effect, discomfort is like a cause, one of the causes that has its effect, comfort. Because the more you do something you're uncomfortable with, eventually it becomes so normal to you, you're no longer uncomfortable. So we all used to find learning to speak deeply uncomfortable, learning to walk deeply uncomfortable. We face the discomfort so many times that it transformed itself into the comfort it was seeking to become. Now we don't even think about speaking when we speak. We don't even think about walking or dreaming or discovering, whatever it may be. However, if we had rejected that discomfort, we would have been actually choosing discomfort. Okay? Because the discomfort would never have been alchemized into a deeper and embodied form of comfort. If all you face is comfort, eventually it's you want to grow. It's like a snake that's stuck in its skin. Yes, it's uncomfortable to grow, but it wants to grow. In fact, I learned in this book I'm reading, I'm not yet sure if the book is something I would recommend because I just started it, but it's called The Karma of Success. And I thought when a snake shed its skin, it felt kind of neutral about it. Like it just happened, it's just like one of those happenings. But I read this, okay, it says, snakes spend over 10% of their lives in an intense state of change called ecdysis, also known as shedding. It's an unpleasant endeavor that involves the snake going blind for a few days and rubbing itself against hard, painful surfaces to try and get the old skin off. Snakes will hide themselves and stop eating during this period because they're so irritated and so vulnerable. Snakes will hide themselves and stop eating during this period because they're so irritated and so vulnerable. The whole experience is excruciating. That's a word. Excruciating for a snake to shed its skin. This thing we're taught from a young age just happens. It's just a part of change. It's just a part of growth. But you would never, ever see a snake reject the process. There is simply no alternative. Snakes shed, birds migrate, and grass grows. Notice the ease with which all of this happens. The grass doesn't try to grow, and the snake doesn't force himself or herself or themselves to shed. The same applies to you too. So the difference, though, is we have the consciousness to reject the change. So that's where I would add on to this book. Is that, yes, it is an easeful process. It is an emergent process. You can tell something wants to happen. You just can feel the energy, the calling, pulling you forward. But the difference is you have a consciousness that can say, I believe all life has consciousness, but you have the kind of consciousness that can resist change, whereas the tree, the snake, the bird does not. So I believe they have their own consciousness that we don't understand. But we also know the snake doesn't have the consciousness that says, I know I need to shed the skin, but I'm going to choose not to. I know I need to leave this relationship, but you know what? That would be so uncomfortable, so I'm just going to stay. I know I need to leave this job. I know it. But you know what? That feels so scary and daunting. I'm just going to stay. Or I know I need to not leave the job, but start to build a security, a safety net for myself, start to build an exit strategy for myself. But that would make me have to confront that I'm afraid of failing and I'm afraid to make that next step. So I'm just going to avoid it. So we have the kind of consciousness that can deny our own next becoming, block it, repress it. Okay? So what is seeking to be expressed within you, from within to without, that you're being invited to allow, even if it's uncomfortable? And how can you normalize in your heart that discomfort is a part of discovery, it's a part of growing, it's a part of excellence, it's a part of becoming who you seek to become? And maybe take a second to think of your favorite artists, your favorite writers, singers, musicians, and go and study these people and hear how much discomfort they faced in the process of it.
It's my first time back home on the stage after giving birth. I'm creating my own homecoming, and it's hard. There were days that I thought, I'd never be the same. I'd never be the same physically. My strength and endurance would never be the same. And a lot of the choreography is about feeling. So it's not as technical It's your own personality that brings it to life. And that's hard when you don't feel like yourself. I had to rebuild my body from cut muscles. It took me a while to feel confident enough to freak in and give it my own personality.
So Beyonce's Homecoming documentary is a classic example of this, of training for months and months, or even years, I can't remember, for this 2 or 3 hour performance. Accepting the discomfort, many forms of discomfort none of us would want. And that's okay. We all have sort of our own boundaries and limits, which is beautiful. But every single artist we admire, the writer we admire that spent 10 years writing that novel, building that world, willing to sit in the discomfort of things taking longer than they wanted them to take. I've been so inspired by Rosalia's new album, which is so beautiful. And it took her 3 years to make that album. And she talks about how discouraging it was to sit with it taking so much longer than she wished it had taken.
It's a beautiful moment, you know, when, okay, now the album is finished finally, and now it's about sharing it. It can be discouraging sometimes how long it takes, but I think it's teaching me patience. Each project is teaching me more patience.
Well, you must have had so much patience to just get through this process of making this album, because there's so much in it.
Yes.
I loved what you said about Leonard Cohen and the idea of finishing a record in the 3 stages. And that area where you can just feel very lost in it.
Yeah.
It's no longer yours. It takes on a life of its own. There must have been many moments during the making of this where it felt that way.
Ooh, yes, because it's been 3 years. So all the things that can happen in 3 years, so many.
Yeah.
But also I love that Leonard is a big inspiration. And I love that he used to say, which I would repeat a lot while I was making the album. He used to say, forget your perfect offering. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in.
So every single person we admire, the fact that we know them in public means that they were willing to sit with something in private that most people would not be willing to sit with. Let me just say that again. The fact that we know who someone is in public is a testament to the fact that they were willing to do something in private that most people were not willing to do.
When you did get onto The Daily Show, which was a real first for a show like that, it didn't go so well at first.
Oh, yeah, it was terrible.
I didn't realize this. I was looking at the stats and I read that there was...
It was absolutely terrible. It was like, man, it was, you know, when they say be careful what you wish for, because I was like, oh, I'd love a challenge and this will be an interesting, and it was a challenge. It was absolutely terrible.
So we know who Trevor Noah is. We know who some of these people are, but it's because of what they were willing to do when no one knew who they were. We know what certain worlds were that we experienced through movies or books, but it's because of what they were willing to sit with in private, in the invisible realm, the invisible work, the studio, the writing room, wherever they were, their bed, wherever they were, that they sat with that discomfort in private. So what will your story be? What will you be willing to sit with in private so that what you are here to share and create and experience can be lived in public? What discomfort in your life is seeking to become a form of comfort? If we just surrender to the discomfort and say yes to it, because we came here to feel alive. And discomfort is a very alive feeling. Nerves are a very alive feeling. It's part of the process. It's not that you just at some point outgrow the capacity to feel afraid. It's just how you respond to it. Another example is I was watching this interview where Billie Eilish was saying,
I used to be like, hate making music, don't want to make it, don't like making it. It's frustrating, it's irritating. I love having made it, I love performing it, I love, when it's good, but I really have always struggled with the process. And this was when
you were enjoying the process.
I was kind of finally enjoying the process, and Phineas was like, I would rather be doing anything else right now. And it was very interesting because I saw myself in that. Because I was like, I have felt that way. But now, and you have always been the thing that keeps the ship moving. And now you feel that way. And like, what does that mean for us?
And it's the willingness for that, being willing to sit with that excruciating feeling that then allows her to be seen in public. Now, I'm going to be doing a soul session on the myth of ease, because we can fall into kind of two social traps, neither of which serves us. So what we're not saying is it should be excruciating. Excruciate yourself more. Be more uncomfortable. Be always uncomfortable. Never feel joy. Never feel ease. No, we're not saying that. That's a script of like the myth of hard work and the idea that it should always feel hard. Marriage is hard. Relationships are hard. Life is hard. That we are not in service of, or I am not in service of. But then there's another cultural myth that things should feel easy, that if you're writing an essay and it starts to feel hard, you're doing something wrong, that we should always be in flow, that it should feel amazing, that there's this montage phase of creativity, like, and then, but then I began to wonder where it's just flowing and easeful and there's nothing in your way and everything feels so easy and quick and instant, and it just poured out of me and I just couldn't stop writing, and then I had the first draft, and that is also a certain kind of cultural myth that makes us then resist some of these really crucial portal moments that want us to deepen, that want us to expand, and instead we neglect and reject them and therefore never graduate into the next phase of embodying the dream. So if you think about someone as an artist, like Thames is an incredible singer who I love, like she had to pass through so many portals of discomfort in order for her to become someone we all know. You know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to get at. It's that, yes, she found joy and delight and magic, but she also found being asked to grow.
My mom, she's very supportive. My family, it's not like they wanted me to be like a doctor, but they just didn't expect me to be a musician, like a singer. Like when I said, oh yeah, I'm quitting my job, I'm going to sing now, everybody was like, she's on drugs. She's smoking. She's sniffing cocaine, like for real, like on a serious thing. So it was just like, this girl is on serious. Mm-hmm. She's just lazy. She just likes to. She's now saying she sings. Really, when have you ever sung in your life?
The fear of judgment, the fear of criticism, the fear of being embarrassing, the fear of social rejection, and everyone in your life telling you you're making a mistake, and being willing to sit with that discomfort as a portal to growth. And we would never be able to experience or know who she was had she not stepped through that portal and the next portal and the next portal, to the point that she's now an international star. Okay? So I'm sending you so much love, my darling, and I invite you to go and take a juicy, slightly uncomfortable, aligned action towards your dreams and feel who you get to become on the other side of taking those actions consistently over time. Because it will blow, I'm trying to use less violent language. It will surprise and delight you how saying yes to these discomfort portals again and again can land you in a completely different place that you thought might have taken you decades to get to or years to get to. But because you kept saying yes to the discomfort, it allows you, speed is not the measure of delight or success or whatever, but it allows you to just move with a certain kind of flow, a greater flow, like a co-creative flow with the universe. Because I think when we're facing discomfort and fear, we're facing and saying yes to the God within each of us, to the cosmic power, to the cosmic infinity within each of us. There's this moment of, wow, I am godly. And that's terrifying. And I think that these discomfort portals invite us into a deeper knowing and intimacy with that part of us. I'm sending you so much love. I hope that this has served you and supported you. And I will see you on the next Soul Session. I love you. Bye. I hope some paradigms have been shifted for you in today's conversation. As always, if you can, please leave a 5-star rating on Apple and Spotify. Like, comment, subscribe. I love you so, so much. Okay? I love you. Join me on my Substack. Links in the comment section. Go there. Okay? Love you so much. Love you. Bye.